Good afternoon to you, snooker fans. Welcome to a brand new season of the 15 Red podcast with myself, Scott McCarter, here in County Tyrone. And Sheffield seems an awful long time ago, but I'm delighted to be joined after quite a substantial break for both of us by my co-host in London, Kelly Barker. Good afternoon to you, Kelly.
Good afternoon, Scott. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, Scott, Sheffield seems quite a long time ago now, doesn't it? But been plenty of snooker here and there over the summer. What with Alfie Burden won the seniors straight after the World Championship, so well done to him. We also had Bayu Liu winning back-to-back ladies championship, World Championships. So yeah, it's all good things coming to the Chinese snooker. They've now got the men's and women's world champions. Then straight into Q School. So if you didn't want much of a break, there's been plenty to watch. But yeah, I think the Championship League was the first one where I really sat down a bit more thoroughly and watched some. And we must say well done to Stephen Maguire, who beat Joe O'Connor in the final. To win his first ranking title for, I think, about 7 years. So, or 5 years since the Tour Championship, sorry.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, well done, Maguire. Good to see him back in the winner's circle.
Yes, very much so. I've always had a slight desire to see Stephen Maguire do relatively well. I was pleased he won that because his last one actually has quite a personal connection for me. We actually, the day of that final, we buried my grandfather, so that was it was an escape for me at that time during his last illness. But it was good to see Stephen doing well again, and because of that personal reason, I always follow his results very closely. So I was particularly pleased to see that. Joe Connor played, from what I saw, for family reasons, I wasn't quite as able to follow the Championship League as I would have liked. But from what I saw, Joe Connor played reasonably well, but Stephen was just too strong.
Yes, I watched quite a lot of it on the final week, sort of the winners' groups week. And yeah, I think that Maguire and Joe O'Connor, neither of them barely lost a game or did much wrong at all. And I think for Joe, the only time he was really behind was when he lost the match against Maguire. So unfortunate for him, but a good start to the season. And yeah, and Maguire will be apparently. John Higgins was saying that Maguire's been in their unit where they practice. He's been in there for 3 or 4 hours every day over the summer. So Maguire sounds like he really wants to do well. So yeah, just rewards for the start of the season.
Yes, very good. Very good indeed. But now we're going to move on to the real start of the season. No disrespect to the Championship League, but I mean, last week in Shanghai was absolutely wonderful, wasn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think we were saying before we came on. I think it's been the best first event of the season we've had for many a year. All the top players seemed to hit the ground running. They seem as if they have put some practice in. Like the standard was really, really high, and just the fact that it's the creme de la creme of the tour. Really, I mean, I know we've got the likes of the BBC events, the Triple Crowns, but for me, Shanghai is a big event, and anybody would want to win it, do well, and we start our season by saying, well done, Kyron Wilson. Apart from a blip at Sheffield, he's picked up where he left off last season.
I mean, that was the interesting thing for me, and it'll be interesting to see going forward. I was particularly interested in Kyron this, before the week started, because I thought, he's not world champion anymore. How will he take to that? Well, he's clearly taken to it like a duck to water. And he just said, yes, it was a massive disappointment. I mean, you it sort of feels rather unjust to call the World Championship just a minor blip. Obviously, it's not that minor, it's the biggest tournament of the lot. But at the same time, he did just pick up, and it was a tremendous season last season, and this season, all all things bode well for him. So it was particularly interesting and good to see him get back on his feet after a disappointment.
Absolutely. I mean, he just looks like the complete player these days.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna beat him easily this season. He's got the confidence, and his all-round game is just so good, and he's good to watch as well. I think he still gets a little bit of stick online. People saying that they don't want to watch his robotic cue action and all that, but he's playing so well. It's just a joy to watch, really. And I can't imagine he won't go to Sheffield next year as with 3 or 4 trophies in the bag again, because even if Judd's at his best, Sing Tong might be at his best at some points. Um, but I don't think on Kyron's best form, I I don't know that he's got no weaknesses in his game. I think that's the thing. I mean, I think most players, when they have a bit of an off day, there is a section of their game that isn't always so it does come across as a little weak at times when they're having a bad day. But Kyron, he just looks so in control of his emotions, of himself, and his game is, his long potting is so good, his scoring is so good, his tactical side is so good. You just fail to see how he isn't going to be winning tournaments regularly this season.
Yes, I mean, it's a sort of rather interesting three-way battle between uh, Wilson, Zingtong, and Trump. No, Wilson has beaten Zingtong in China, as we'll come on to in a moment. But it's an interesting little sort of three-way dynamic. I mean, we talk about the three-way dynamic between the three class of '92 boys, but it'll be interesting to see which of the three of them, the world number one, the world champion, or the world number two, actually get supremacy in that little uh, triangle, if you like.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see how those three, if they all have a good season, they'll be meeting a lot in quarters, semis, or finals. And I just think it's so exciting. And I think we can also throw Mark Selby in the mix with that lot as well. He played really well. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a really good season ahead, and I'm already looking forward to the Saudi this coming weekend. But if we move on to if we go through the tournament as a whole, I usually make notes from the quarterfinals onwards, but it was such a good tournament from the off that yeah, I had to go over all of it again. And very first morning of the tournament. First match was Barry Hawkins against Wu Yize. And Barry won 6-4. It's such a high quality game. And Barry actually made his 500th century of his career during that match, which I thought was worth a little mention because he played very well. Wu Yize battled well. I didn't watch that one live at 2:30 in the morning. Funnily enough, I've only watched that this morning. But yeah, it was a really good high quality game, and I recommend if you've got some spare time, then that one's worth a look back on. But we move into the last 16, and well, first one was a bit of a surprise. Mark Selby beat Sean Murphy 6-0, and he looked absolutely brilliant. But the match of the round, I think, well, there was a few to choose from, Scott, but Kyron against CJR Kyron winning 6-5, and it was a match of the highest quality possible.
Yes, well, I would put it as probably the best of 11 I've seen. since the 2020 Champion and Champion semi-final between Selby and Roberts. You remember where that was just extraordinary scoring, and I'm rather I was saying to you off air, I'm rather disappointed in Kyron. The sort of dark statistician in me was rather disappointed because, of course, if he hadn't played that no look black on 97 at the end, he would have there would have been 7 centuries in the best of 11, which would have been a record, uh, which I was rather hoping for, but Kyron probably didn't realise. Doesn't matter anyway, but no, it was a
Yes,
tremendous standard. I mean, it was absolutely wonderful.
it was a great match, thoroughly enjoyable. And like you say, I just wonder whether Kyron didn't realise the record was on, or else I think he would have just potted it normally. But anyway, so cracking game and moving on. The next session, Ding beat Zhang 6-5. Another really top game, Scott. But Zhang had a 1-4-7 during the game, but it was Ding who came through a decider.
Yes, interesting here because, of course, Deng, eh, eh, well, we'll come to the perpetuation of the Deng curse, in a moment. But there's an extraordinary sort of tussle that Deng's in now because there's so many good players from China. And to be honest, I know he won the international championship last season, but by and large, he will probably think there's a bit of unfinished business to do in terms of getting back into winning regularly because, he thinks it's 20 years since I broke through and this Chinese revolution sort of started. And now I have to make up time with these young guns. So that win over Zhang Anda would have been very satisfying.
Absolutely, and I think all the Chinese players and everyone connected in China will thank Ding really for starting the revolution and what they've got today. We'll come on to Xing Tong's match with Ding in the next round, but you can just see how much the Chinese lads, he's almost like the grandfather really of Chinese snooker, and everyone just looks up to him. And I think Ding is still actually the top ranked of the Chinese, so he's still got his place, and he's still capable of winning any tournament. So I think it's not time to think that maybe he has had his best days. I'm not sure, but I do remember that international championship last year. He played really well, and you thought, wow, he's still more than capable of winning tournaments. But yeah, I think that was a good win for Ding because Ander did play well. I watched all of that match. But yeah, very enjoyable. But we move on to more of the last 16. I'll just run through these quickly. We had Judd Trump beat Neil Robertson 6-2, and this was excellent snooker from Judd. He looks like he'd got a very good suntan, and I'd seen online that he'd been to Bali for his summer holidays. So he's been enjoying himself, but he's obviously put some work in as well because he looked in very good nick against Neil Robertson, who himself didn't play badly but couldn't pick up more than 2 frames. So I think that bodes well for Judd and Neil for the season ahead, and I fully expect those to be in and around finals. And then the most astonishing match possibly out of all these good ones was Ali Carter, who got in at the last minute after Mark Allen's withdrawal. He beat Mark Williams 6-5. Now, Willow led 5-2 and didn't pot another ball as Carter produced 4 great frames to win 6-5. This was really something, Scott. It was tremendous snooker, and well done, Carter, because I'd certainly probably mentally written him off in this match at 5-2 because he was possibly starting to get a bit frustrated with himself, but pulled something out the hat and never lost a frame, never missed another ball, and Mark Williams just had no chance.
Well, I think from Mark's point of view, that last point you make will be the consoling one. It's not as if he let Carter off the hook as such. Carter actually made his chances and made the most of them. Mark, as you say, didn't put a ball. 398 unanswered points. So, from Mark's point of view, you know, he just ran into a freak. But from Ali Carter's point of view, I mean, talk about Denmark 1992, if you understand the reference there. Shouldn't have been in, rather like Steve Maguire, that tour championship we mentioned earlier, shouldn't have been in it, but we'll get on to how far he went in a moment. But it was remarkable what he did. And of course, we know Ali's a very, very good player, and he was just reminding people because, as you say, when I saw 5-2, because I think that was on the sort of non-TV table. So, like, the commentators on the TV table were sort of giving updates from it. And, like, at 5-2, you're sort of sitting going, there'll not be much to do over there. And then an hour later, he's won 6-5. And you're like, dear me.
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, as we went on to see, it was a sign of things to come for Ali all week. But just quickly over the last 16 ties, we had Zhao Gudong beating John Higgins 6-4. Now Zhao owed John one, I think, because John had beaten him at least the last 3 or 4 events of last season. But and he looks a better player, I thought. Gudong, he had 3 tons and an 80. And like I say, I think he owes John one. But John had his family out there with him, and they actually, I saw that the Higgins family and the Williams family all went to Disney World together in Shanghai, and some nice pictures online of them all enjoying the rides and the fairgrounds. So they made the most of the free time of not being on the table after Williams and Higgins had both lost. We then had a bumper evening on that last 16 evening. We had O'Sullivan beating Hawkins 6-5. And at the same time, Zhao Xingtong beat Chris Wakeling 6-2 in his first match as world champion. He had a century and 4 other 50 pluses and was never really troubled by Chris Wakeling. And he looked the part, I thought. I thought, just looking at that, he's settled into being world champion. I can see him doing if not as well as Kyron. I think he'll be there or thereabouts a lot this season.
Yes, and the interesting thing, of course, is that, we've had these two contrasting, the last two world champions have had very contrasting seasons. I rather agree with Michael McMullen. People say that it's, the historic thing is the world champion struggle. Well, that's not really the case. I think, you know, some cope with the tag and others don't cope with it. And Zhao Jingtong clearly coped with it very well against Wakeland. I mean, clearly he didn't, win the tournament, but I mean, it certainly bodes well for the rest of the season, the performance in Shanghai. I think the thing with so many of these players, obviously all the headlines will go on Kyron Wilson because he won the tournament. But so many of these players, particularly the top players, will want to just establish themselves, get themselves, used to playing conditions again. And, so I think, although there can only be one winner, there'll be a lot of players, and Zhao Tong will be among them, who will say that, that was a fairly good week because I was able to play reasonably well and establish myself for the season going forward.
Absolutely. I thought he looked very good. And that win over Chris Wakeling for Zhao set up a quarter-final against Ding, which was touted as being one of the most looked forward to Chinese contests in that country since, the revolution of the Chinese snooker. So, but it turned out not to be much of a match in the end. Zhao
Yeah.
Xingtong beat Ding 6-1. He was in sparkling form. He started with a 1-3-4, had two other centuries, and Ding just had no reply against the world champions. So that was a little bit disappointing for Ding in the end. And you know, it was such a packed arena, they couldn't wait for that game. Other quarterfinals, Selby beat Trump 6-4. Trump made 3 centuries, but his all-round game wasn't quite there, and Selby was looking very strong, I thought. So he deserved that win, did Mark. And yeah, other quarterfinals, Ali Carter beat Zhao Gudong 6-5. Carter once again was 5-2 down and landed a great comeback. And the fourth quarterfinal, just going through quickly, Kyron beat Ronnie 6-3. And this was a close game to start with. It was 3-all. Looks like it could have gone either way. But Kyron then moved right through the gears with runs of 91, 83, and 109 to seal the win and set up a semi-final against Zhao Xingtong. So a battle of the last two world champions, which, yeah, that was one to look forward to, Scott. But Kyron was looking very good at this point.
Yes, well, I suppose, and it should be said, lest anybody because the press, and particularly the sort of popular press that don't really follow snooker day to day, sort of latch on to the fact O'Sullivan was big, but Kyron was the better player. That should be made the point. And I think personally, you know, I'm not saying Ronnie's nearing the end, but clearly he's not where he once was. And does he care? That's really the point. But Kyron definitely was the better player.
Oh, he absolutely was. The only thing I would say about Ronnie was it was good to see him there. He got married over the summer, so everything's is happy off the table. I would hope. And I thought he did play well in that the previous match against Barry Hawkins. Maybe he isn't where he was 15 years ago, but who is? And I still think if he puts it all together, he can still win tournaments this season. I thought he looked all right, to be fair. He caught Kyron on a day when he wasn't going to lose to anyone. So
Yeah. No.
but yeah, that set up the semi-finals, and the first one we moved up to best of 19s now, which are always a joy. The first
Yes.
semi-final, the first semi was Ali Carter beat Mark Selby 10-8. Now, for someone who wasn't in the tournament a fortnight before, Ali now guaranteed himself over 100 grand, and yeah, Mark would have left this match disappointed. I thought he was 8-6 up, and as Ali did in the previous matches, he won the last four. Thought Selby wilted a bit, but Ali got stronger as he saw the winning line.
One shot, the blue.
Yes, exactly. I
One
thought. I
shot.
mean, Mark looked all the way like he was going to win that frame and go 9-6 up, and then who knows? But I thought Ali roared towards the line very well, and he
Yeah.
deserved it. And he just took the chance from not being in the tournament. I mean, he said he owes Mark Allen a drink. I think he might owe him a little bit more now, we're having reached the final. But yeah, that was a really good game to watch. And for most of the way, we didn't know who was going to win it. But yeah, really, really enjoyable, and well done, Ali Carter. This is a great start to the season for him.
Yeah. But again, matches of proper length. I mean, this is one of my high horses in the snooker world. Matches of proper length. When you get proper best of 19s like that, it's glorious viewing. Then when you get a sort of topsy turvy match that has say changed on one shot, I mean, um, it's the sort of blue that you would have thought Selby would have put it. All right, it wasn't. I'm not saying it was a Gaming, but it was the sort of blue he should have got 99 times out of 100. But That was just the one time he didn't, and Ali took full advantage.
Absolutely. And Mark was playing well at that point, up to that point as well. I thought he was looking very solid and on for the win, but that must have robbed his confidence a bit, that blue, and made him still doubt that he might win because Ali looked very good after. And Mark made several very unselby-like mistakes. I think
The
he played he
safety
put
was very loose.
his safety in those last frames as well. I think he broke off once and brought a red up the table, and then that was that frame gone. He played another safety shot in another frame where he was going to skim off the pack back down to bulk, but he missed the pack and went smack into the back of them. And that was another frame gone. So, yeah, after what was a very promising start to the week, beating Murphy and Trump, Mark will go home disappointed. But overall, I thought, apart from that, towards the end against Carter, when the chips were down and he didn't have the answers, I thought it was a decent week overall for his first games of the season.
Yeah,
But anyway, on to the second semi-final, and this was the one I think we were all excited about.
yeah.
Kyron against Zhao Xingtong, the battle of the last two world champions. But in the end, Scott, it was a pretty comfortable do for Kyron. He won 10-5. He trailed 5-4 after the first session, but he won all 6 frames of the evening, and Xingtong had no answers. And he actually got a bit weaker when Kyron was getting stronger.
Well, one doesn't want to bring up what happened with Zhang Tong again, but he hasn't got all that much sort of match experience. Now I know the World Championship was extraordinary, but you know, Kyron has obviously played during those months that Zhang or Zhou Zhengtong couldn't play, and therefore that experience, I think, just told slightly.
Maybe it did, and maybe Xingtong needs a little bit of toughening up, because he hasn't, ever since he came back on the tour, he's not really been tested too thoroughly. Obviously, he had most things all his own way at the Crucible, never looked in real danger during any matches. It was
Yeah.
probably the qualifiers where he was most pressed. But yeah, I think, again, without doing Xingtong too much of a disservice, Kyron played very well. He had the
Yeah.
odd error himself during the evening session, but once he was behind a couple of frames, I just thought Xingtong didn't have the answers. And Kyron, a very deserving finalist to play Ali Carter.
Yeah, just another point. I'm reminded of something Al McManus once said. The key to sort of long frame matches is to win bunches of frames, in sort of threes and fours. And I think, the two semi-finals are examples of that. Nip and tuck all the way, but somebody wins 3 or 4 on the spin, or 5 in Kyron's case, I think, or no, 6, sorry, in Kyron's case, and you manage to get the win. So it's all about sort of picking your moment to strike, I suppose.
Yes, I think so. And I think Kyron, having been 5-4 down after that first session, he knew a good start was highly desirable. He didn't want to get behind against Xingtong much. But he hit the ground running and he never seriously looked in any trouble. I'm really, really impressed with Kyron's start to the season. He would have had, I'm sure he would have had a holiday and a bit of time off in the summer. But he's just looked so good and he looks so very much sharp, even at this early stage. So it all bodes well. But on to the final against Ali Carter, the captain. And I thought this was a really enjoyable match all the way through, Scott. Could have gone either way, was never much in it. Kyron eventually coming through, I think it was 11-9. It was best of
Yes.
21, which is a bit of a strange one, but it's very enjoyable. I think Carter will have been a little disappointed he never did make it 10-all, But when Kyron got his chance in that, what turned out to be the last frame, he stole that frame. And I think he let out a big come on at the end because I think, he'd earned that, and it was a big win for him to start the season with. And a nice 210 grand payday, and he's off and running with a trophy again.
Indeed, a very, very impressive time, I think, or a very impressive performance, I should say, by Kyron for his opening salvo of the season. A great performance, particularly when it was so close. 5 all at the end of the first session, then sort of back and forward, and 2 frames here and 2 frames there again, and very much the sort of it's not just the win that'll serve Kylan well, I think, but it's the sort of win. He's been properly tested in a long match. He's gone close, and and if nothing else, he's made up for that. Well, it'll not quite make up for losing first round at Sheffield, but he's now that maybe he doesn't have that world champions tag, that might make him even more determined to say, no, well, I'm not world champion, I'm not world number one, but I want to push on.
I think so. I think it will do. And he's the only player, he holds 5 titles at the moment across the season. Now, I know we've got more trophies to go at than we ever used to, but that's mighty impressive in this day and age. When he's, well, like you say, he isn't world champion anymore. He isn't world number one. If he wins in Saudi next week with the 500,000 ranking points, he surely can't be too far off catching Judd up. But like I say, I'm so impressed with Kyron, and it's his attitude as well. He never ever gives up. He never seems to weaken, and like I said before, I think this will be the first trophy of a few this season for him, because he doesn't, when he's at his best like this, his all-round game, he just looks unbeatable.
He's very much a sort of young head on old shoulders, if I can put it like that. He's got a very sort of, I don't want to say old-fashioned attitude, but sort of the old-fashioned hard work gets you places sort of attitude. He's not going round, looking for likes on social media. He's not, now he'll engage on social media, but like he's not going out looking for likes. He's not living a sort of extravagant lifestyle off the table. He's got Sophie and Finley and Bailey, he's got the family, and obviously Rob and Sonia are there too at mum and dad. So he's got that family grounding, I think, and that comes across, and it helps his snooker, I think, because he can see, look, it's a tremendous privilege to play this sport. I have to put the work in to enable myself to play it properly, and play it properly. He most certainly does. Like, one doesn't want to project too far into the future, but if he keeps going, like he could come back at the end of his career with 3 or 4 world titles, maybe. If that application keeps up.
Oh, I totally agree. He's just so he's good to watch as well, and I think he's a better player now than he was just over 12 months ago when he did win the world title. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing how he gets on in the Saudi Masters this week. And we'll be back after that tournament, Scott, to look back on another good week, hopefully.
Yes, well, the Saudis certainly know how to put on a good show in terms of the aesthetics of the thing, anyway. So it'll be good to look at as well as the snooker. So we'll be back, hopefully, to review Saudi in due course. And I look forward to your company then, Kelly. Thank you very much. And just to say, everyone, we do hope that you'll continue to watch us, and to uh, put comments below the videos and so on. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover, do put it in the comments, and we'll try and cover it. So thank you very much indeed.
Goodbye, folks. Good to be back.
Right, then. Bye, all.